Okay, what we have here is a table, and hopefully my table looks very similar to the one that you have used to collect your data. What we're going to do now is we're going to make this table easy to read. So when somebody else comes to my table to have a bit of a look at my data, they'll easily be able to find the data that they need. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that all our countries are capitalized, and we also want to make sure we've put in our variables and labeled them correctly. So I've got democracy scale score and I've got life expectancy, and I've shown that life expectancy is measured in years. If you have something that's a percentage or another type of measure, maybe per 100,000, make sure you put that in brackets so people know exactly how it's measured. For something like a scale score or an index, you won't be able to do that. You'll just have to show that it's a score that somebody else has come up with. Once you've got everything labelled properly, what you're going to do is you are going to try and make it look really nice and neat. So if you need to, you may need to change the width of your so that your data or your labels or whatever fits in properly. If it doesn't fit in properly, you can just hover between the columns and you can see this little arrow pointing both ways comes up, and you can just drag your columns along to make them wider or smaller as you need. The next thing we need to do is to make sure that it's easy to find our way along the rows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a little shortcut to doing this. So I'm going to highlight my whole table, and then I'm going to come up to this option on my menu that says Format as Table. When I hit that, it comes up with a bunch of different options. And to make it really clear, I'm going to choose one that's got banded rows, so you can see that every second row will be grey, but it's also got the headings differently. The headings are going to be on a black background. So if I just tick that, and then when it comes up with this data range, if I can see that this is highlighted properly and it's captured my whole table, all I have to do is hit OK. If you don't have it highlighted properly, hit cancel. Now you can see that it's banded all my rows, which is really good. I can follow Australia's scores along easily because Australia's all grey. Alright, that is how to make your table look nice and neat. The next thing I need you to do is to calculate a correlation. A correlation shows the relationship between your variables. We'll talk more about what the correlation means later, but for now I just need you to do the calculation. So we're going to enter a formula into Excel. Excel is a very powerful calculator and it already knows how to do a lot of maths, but I have to put in the formula correctly so it knows what maths to do. So the first thing I need to do is put in equals. When I put equals in to Excel, it knows I'm asking it to do some maths. Then I need to tell it what kind of maths I need to do. So I'm going to put Corel, which is spelled C-O-R-R-E-L, and that will tell Excel that I want it to do a correlation. We're then going to open the brackets, and we need to put in array 1, as you can see that it's told me I need to do here. Array 1 simply means the range of cells that have my data in them. So to calculate a correlation, it needs to know where one set of variables is, and then it will ask me where the other set of variables is. Now, my set of variables is in cell B2 all the way down in the B column to B16. So you can see each column has a letter. The letter always goes first, and each row has a number. the number goes second. So Australia's democracy scale score is in B2. So I'm going to type in B2. The next thing I need to do is I need to put in a colon. So I hold down Shift and I hit the colon button, which is to the right of the L if you haven't used it before. Now, I need to see where my last cell is in my range or my array, and it is in row 16, but it will still be in B, so I'll put B16, because remember, the letter always goes first. Now this little thing here tells me what I need to do next. I need to do a comma, and then I've just put in a space to make it easier for me to read, and I can put in my second array. As you can see, my second array is in column C, so that will be my first letter that I put in, and it will be in the same rows, right? Because it lines up perfectly. Okay, so C2 is right next to B2, so that's where I've got my life expectancy for Australia. I'm going to do the colon again, so Shift, colon button, and then I'm going to put in C, and you can see it comes all the way down to 16, so C16. Then I need to make sure the brackets are closed, okay? So if you do anything in there slightly wrong, it will come up with an error. Sometimes it will fix the error for you. Sometimes it won't know how to fix the error. So you might have to pause this so you can see that yours matches up exactly with mine. The only difference between yours and mine might be if you've got less countries or more countries than I do, you will have a range that goes to maybe B11 or it might go to B20 depending how many numbers you have. So you need to see what the last row is that you've got data in and make sure that's the number you put in instead of B16. So if you only went to B11, you'd put B11 instead of B16. Okay, so now I'm going to hit enter, and it's calculated my correlation for me. You can see my correlation is 0.46. I'm just rounding it up there. All right, you don't need to understand the correlation yet. We'll do more with the correlation later. The final step that I need you to do in class today is to create a scatter plot. A scatter plot is a graph that's going to represent my data. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the data that I want. And I'm highlighting just the data. I'm not even highlighting the headings or the countries because that's going to confuse Excel a bit, and we're just trying to do something fairly basic at the moment. We don't want to do terribly difficult things. So highlight just your data and then go to Insert. When you're at Insert, you can see there's a Charts menu, and on the Charts part of the menu, you'll see this little puppy. This is a scatter plot. So we're going to hit on the down button there, and we're going to choose the scatter plot in the top left position. I'm going to move it over and out of my way so I can see it. Now there are a range of things that you can do to edit your scatter plot. So first of all, I'm going to name it. Now the way we name a correlational scatter plot is we put in the two variables and we put the word versus between them. So I'm going to put democracy scale score versus life expectancy by country. Okay, and that's the title of my scatter plot. A couple of other things that I would like to do is I would like to add a trend line, and that just shows me if there's a bit of a pattern. It sort of shows me what the pattern is. I'm going to add in axis titles as well, and then I can label those. So this first axis here, or the y-axis I should say, is life expectancy, and the second axis is democracy scale score. Okay. There are other ways that you can play around with these graphs. So for example, I might not want my life expectancy score to go from 0. I might want it to start at 40 or 50, so that it's only representing the range that I'm getting. You can play around with the chart elements here and other ways to format this if you would like to, but at a bare minimum, by the end of this lesson, I would like you to have a nicely set out table. I would like you to have calculated your correlation, and I would like you to have labelled your scatter plot. Make sure you label the axes as well, and put a trend line in. If you're not sure how to do any of these things, just rewatch that part of the video, pause it, have a go at doing it, and then if you still don't get it, just rewind a little and try again. Miss Jago's there to help you as well, and some of your classmates will probably pick this up fairly quickly, and so if you're really struggling, you might like to ask one of them as well.